Okay, folks, good evening. Nordic, welcome. I am doing, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I've had a cough for over a week now, a mysterious cough for over a week, with no other symptoms other than a cough. But I guess a lot of people have that. But we're going to put the goop here on this other base. We already have one done for the Panzer II. And this is the other one. We need that goop to dry so that hopefully in the morning we can base the last two Panzer IIs. I haven't done anything over a week. The time change is really killing me. It's never affected me as much as it has this year. It's crazy. Like right now, it feels like it's like 11 o'clock at night. You know, the time change only moved an hour, but it feels like it's moved like 4, almost. You've been sick for the whole week, stuffy nose, cough, and sneezing. Yeah, there's something going around. My wife's had a cough for about a month, and I'm coughing pretty bad. I'm trying to get her to get some sleep, so I've retired here to the couch here in the office for the last week. Because I'll like wake up like at midnight, just be like coughing up a lung, but I'm not coughing anything up. And I don't feel bad other than that. It's just kind of annoying. It's just kind of a dry, unproductive cough. I think it's some kind of allergy or I don't know, maybe some mild sinus infection or something, but I don't feel bad at all. Nose and lungs seem to be pretty clean, so I don't know. It's mysterious, awful mysterious. But I've been getting home from work and I've just been exhausted. Like I got home really early on Sunday. I thought I was going to get a chance to do some painting, and then just by the time I went to the grocery store and everything else, it was like 7, and I went to bed like at 8 o'clock or something like that last Sunday. Of course, I was out of town last weekend. Okay, so we've got that Panzer II base drying. That's both of them. And what we got left to do on these guys are completely done with the base coloring on them. Yeah, see? The cough. We just need to do some detail painting of stuff, and then we can do the weathering. I don't think I got a chance to paint the black on here yet. No, yeah, we need to do that so we can get these guys done. We've got 3 new kits that came in yesterday in the mail. We got to build them next. They were gifted to me by somebody who said they never get around to them, so it just seems proper that we should get around to them next. Tony, you're big into World War II naval history. Have you ever heard of the USS England destroyer escort? I have not. I'm not big into the U.S. stuff. Yeah, the interesting thing is I went to the gym this week, and you would think that that's what would have caused me to cough, but I think I coughed one time while I was at the gym. I'll be fine, and then I'll eat a meal and not cough during the meal, and as soon as the meal is over, I'll have like a coughing attack of like 7 or 8 coughs like that, and then it'll settle back down. It's just really weird. I don't know what it is. But it's better than having a headache, you know. So, not really keeping me from doing anything. USS England destroyer escort. No, I'm not familiar with it. I'm big into World War II naval history if it involves, like I said, a campaign or areas that I've built ships and played. And the U.S. stuff I've done has only been up through Guadalcanal. Anything later than that, I can't think of any scenarios I've ever played that have U.S. destroyer escorts. They just show up kind of late in the war. Some British ones, yes, but not. Turn the fan up a little bit, but no American ones. What was the British destroyer escorts that I had? I mean, other than the flowers, I had, which is funny. They're all named after flowers, rhododendron and things like that, hibiscus. Fighting names. Name something after a flower. Tulip. Shit, what was it? Hunt class. The Hunt class are the ones that I had by CNC. I had a couple packs of those. England scored 6 Japanese submarine kills in 12 days, a feat that was never equaled in anti-submarine warfare. The England was named after Ensign England, who died in the Oklahoma at Pearl Harbor. Oh, he went back to the ship 4 times after it capsized. Failed to come back after the 4th. Found out the steel for the ship was laid down in my area last night. I found a 350 kit of the ship, brand new, and ordered it. Got it more than 50% off of retail. Is it waterline? Yeah. Man, those guys stuck in the Oklahoma, man, capsized. That's fucked up. That is really fucked up. That's the thing. People hated. A lot of people hated the Pearl Harbor movie, and the one that came out, the one with Ben Affleck and whatever his name is, wooden actor, whatever his name is. Actually, he's not in it. I was thinking, what's his name's in it? But it wasn't bad until that scene where they show up on the Oklahoma trying to cut people out. Like, okay, you can't check on people at the hospital and fly the P-40s and do this and do the other thing and show up on the Oklahoma. I mean, come on, man. You're not Superman where everything at once. That's the part I didn't like about the movie. I thought the special effects were incredible, at least at the time. I rewatched it. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. I didn't think it was bad. I still like, I still like Pearl Harbor better than Midway. I hated the new Midway. Absolutely hated the new Midway movie. Didn't care about anybody in it. The guy that played the main guy was freaking Francis from Deadpool. I didn't care what happened to him. He was a dickhead. With Everything Fails, the old Pearl Harbor movie, you still have Kate Beckinsale to look at. So how bad of a movie could it be? It's a trumpeter kit. Can be built waterline or full hull. Cool. I have not tried a trumpeter kit yet. I have heard good things. Now, I would think that Chinese kits would be pieces of crap. I've only had one experience building a Chinese kit of any kind. It's these guys that are S model. If this is a sign of what Chinese kits are like, they're awesome. Because this are the best tank models I've ever bought. These things go together and it's mind-blowing if that's the case. But these things are truly amazing. They're really, really crisp. The plastic's a little on the brittle side. But Jennifer Garner's in it? No. She doesn't do anything for me, but Kate Beckinsale's on my top 3 for sure. And she didn't look that great in that movie. That was kind of before I took a liking to her. But anyhow, you answered your question. You hated the new Midway too. I did not like how they depicted a dive bomber attacks that was realistic. I hated that part where they skipped the bomb off the deck, And all the CGI in the new Midway seemed like there was this strange sunlight in it. It was very, very. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it at all. Trumper ship kits are pretty good, considered the best ships I've tried to build. I would like to try one of the Dragon ships at some point. One of the guys that I follow on Facebook, or maybe it's one of the groups, or maybe it's one of the guys. I don't know. I want to say it's the guys that do the Yorkshire Gamer stuff. They've been building 1/700 scale ships for naval combat. So that's pretty freaking big. I mean, to play in a game. So I used to have a 1/700 scale Scharnhorst. I had a Scharnhorst by, I think it was a Tamiya kit. And I didn't paint it or anything. It was just gray. I painted the deck and some other details, but it was about this long. So I know they got some German destroyers out there. They some British destroyers. They built a hood, and they're working on Bismarck now. So that's pretty cool. But you're gonna have some real time, some real what do you call it? Really out of scale the miniatures to the playing surface. I mean, even if you were playing on a tennis court, it would still be out of range. I mean, I remember when we were playing 1/2400 scale. When we were playing 1/2400 scale, some of the ships could fire like 80 feet away, like 80 physical feet away. That's, you put the ship here, and that's absurd, So yeah, and that 1/700 scale, so that's 3 times as far. Trumper came out with a new tool 350 Bismarck. Would love to get it, but I'm afraid of ruining the kit. That and near $300 for the kit. What's your favorite ship? What's your favorite ship? If you could build one ship only, what's your favorite ship? I would have a really hard time answering that question. I have so many. I probably could narrow it down to what's my favorite ship per nationality, but there's just so many of them that I like. It'd be really hard to narrow it down. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do it. For some reason, I'm not a fan of the World War I British ships. I'm just not. I just can't get excited about them. The World War II British ships, absolutely, but not the World War I British ships. Just can't get into them. You'd have to say the hood. Okay. I had a hood in 2400 scale, and you would think, oh, it's not very useful because it blew up. Yeah, but it did a lot of stuff before. The Bismarck thing. Remember, it was in Force H, and it was bombarding the French fleet, and it served on the home fleet. It was a flagship of Force H for a while. I like it because it's the only one of its class. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of ships that they only made one of. Gives them a little bit more personality. And that was just a fluke accident that it blew up the way it did. I mean, that was just it just happened to penetrate a place, and it had a, cataclysmic effect. It wasn't like the hood was a piece of crap or anything, A good looking ship. You know what I found out the other day? Another ship that's really good looking is Repulse. And, Repulse went down with Force Z by Japanese naval bombers, naval aircraft, land-based naval aircraft, a few days after Pearl Harbor. She was sunk along with Prince of Wales off of Malaya on the way to intercept the Japanese landings there. So that's something we've played with. When we used to do naval games, that's what we would do. We would take, okay, what if Force Z actually made it into where it was supposed to? So, it is a what if, but it's, everything's there. Like, you knew what Japanese forces were there. You knew what British forces went. We did a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of opportunity for a historical engagement, that almost happened. So I was reading about that the other day, and it might have come up because it was the anniversary. I think it's December 11th when they went down. But I didn't realize that ship is. It's funny because capital ships, when they go down, they're almost always face down. When they sink, regardless of whether or not they split into pieces, they're almost always face down or hull up. And Repulse is face down in like 300 feet of water, which is crazy because it's shallow. If you take whatever vessel it is, and if you were to stand it up on end at that depth, and some of the vessel would still come out of the water, it's a shallow depth. And yeah, Repulse is twice as long. I mean, Repulse was a very long ship for World War I, so it's probably, 700 feet long, something like that. And it's in like 300 feet of water. That's really, 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 really shallow. Which means Prince of Wales got to be in really shallow water as well, because they didn't get sunk very far away from each other. You take something like the Bismarck, and it's in 12,000 feet of water. I mean, like, wow. I mean, there's a big difference there. Bismarck's actually not upside down; she's right side up. The hood was good ship, but probably should have had that fall dress, assuming they even identified it before it happened. Like their Pulse as well. Would love to get that kit as well. I used to have it in the MPC kit. Those were 600, so they were rebranded Airfix ones. But my day as a kid, there was no waterline kits. You had to build it with a whole hull, and I didn't care about the bottom hull. I would have been perfectly happy with a waterline. You're talking like real early 80s though. So I had Bismarck, I had Prinz Eugen, I had Repulse, I had Graf Spee, I had all-in-one 600 scale by MPC kits. I had Ark Royal. I had what else did I have? I want to say I had the Achilles. I had the Achilles or the Exeter. I know they make both of them. Didn't have the hood. They didn't make the hood. I love the Rodney. Rodney's just really has a lot of character. Rodney, Warspite. That ship's been through a lot. I like a lot of the British ships. They have a very storied history and usually come with really cool paint schemes. What scale do you like better, 1 through 50 or 700? 700, there's more variety. That's the only reason. I wouldn't want to do a scale that there wasn't a whole lot of stuff available to it, just for on the off chance that I'd want to collect more stuff for it. But 350, the only thing that used to be made in 350 was Tamiya. They made like Bismarck Tirpitz, right? They made 2 or 3 of the King George V class. They made the Yamatos and they made the Missouris, and that was it. Like, we're talking like 1990. I've been out of model building since then. Now I'm sure there's lots of people that make them, different stuff, but. Never was a fan of the Japanese stuff, of the Japanese ships. Just don't care for them. Just doesn't never interested me. Some of them look pretty cool. One of the cool matchups that's always was a nice what if is French versus Italian, because they were at war for, I want to say, like a month or so before France capitulated. And the French actually took a couple bombardment missions against the Italians on Genoa and stuff like that. You know, with like capital ships. Both of those navies have very pretty ships. Trumpeter makes a series of German destroyers that look like fun kits. I've had my issues trying the larger ships and that scales. I'm trying to destroy it and work up to it. German destroyers give you a headache trying to figure out what's what. It's pretty simple. I'm basically the Narvik class, the Z-23s, because some of them were built. Some of them they originally were built with a double turret up front, and they're 5.9-inch gun armed destroyers, and some of them were equipped with a turret with a double 5.9, and then like an X and Y, both singles facing backwards. And some of them had one in the Q position, which would be aft superstructure, but actually facing forward for 5 guns. And then some they did modifications later where they stripped the double 5.9-inch gun off and put 2 singles up there, and they're also 5.9. And some they rearmed with 5-inch guns. Just a real mess to try to figure out, okay, which Narvik class destroyer you're building. All right, and what year are you building it? Because, the configurations change and stuff like that. Just stuff that could make you go crazy if you're a rivet counter like I am. Old Narvik class destroyers. I remember when I bought the GHQ miniatures they finally came out with the German Navy, because they started off with just American and Japanese. I wasn't excited, and they came out with the German Navy. And I remember the first German ships that came out with GHQ did. This was probably 1988 or something like that. They came out with a Scharnhorst. They came out with the Köln class light cruiser, of which there's 3 in the class, and 2 of them were sunk in Norway. So if you want to use it for any length of time in the war, you really pretty much only have 1 light cruiser out of that. And then they made the von Roeder class destroyers, which were the in-between. They're the Z-17 class. There were 6 of them, and I think all of them but 2 were sunk in Norway. The German fleet really kind of took a pounding in the invasion of Norway by just different situations that happened to them. And the German destroyers in this case they were sitting in Narvik Fjord, and old Warspite decides they get attacked by 4 destroyers. British came in and did some kind of a lightning raid and sunk a couple of them. And then they called in the battleship Warspite for reinforcements. Sails up the fjord. It's a big fjord, but they're sitting ducks, and sinks the rest of them. So I think in the invasion of Norway, the Germans lose like a third of their destroyer force right off the bat. Get nailed right off the bat. Plus, they lose a couple light cruisers outright. The Königsberg and the Karlsruhe. One of them was, I believe, was sunk by dive bomber skuas. I believe that was this Karlsruhe. And the other one takes a mine or a torpedo hit or something like that. You like the candy stripes, huh? Yeah, I like the candy stripes too. They look pretty cool. Trumpeter also has tribal class. Oh, I like tribals. You know what German ship I would love to build more than the Bismarck, which was given? The Scharnhorst. Yeah. Scharnhorst has some really interesting paint schemes that were on her. In 43, really interesting paint schemes. I think it's a prettier ship too. I think it's a very pretty ship, Scharnhorst. Want to do Naval Battle Narvik and Scale GHQ makes. Never played it. Seemed too one-sided. My favorite one to do was the New Year's Eve battle, which is also known as the Battle of Barents Sea. December 31st, 1942. The Germans go and intercept the convoy that's escorted by, several destroyers and close escort of the light cruiser Jamaica and Sheffield. And the German attacking force consists of 6 destroyers with the heavy cruiser Hipper and the pocket battleship Lutzow. And the capital ships, what do I do? I'm out of water? Dehydrated? The 2 German heavy ships split up with 3 destroyers each. And in real life, the Lutzow and the destroyers never, and the 3 destroyers that were with it, never caught up to the convoy, but they were going to attack it from 2 different sides. The British had a radar and kind of knew what was going on, and it was one of those things where it's it's New Year's Eve in the Arctic, so it's perpetual nighttime. And it's kind of a close-fought thing. That was one of our favorite ones we like to recreate. And I remember I played it on the 50th anniversary of it. So New Year's Eve 1991, I was a loser and I was playing I was playing that on the floor. I don't remember what happened, but that was one that we liked to play. Battle of the Barents Sea. But we didn't have access to all the information and paint schemes and different websites and stuff that people have access to now. That's just amazing. All I had was black and white pictures. You had to try to figure out what each color was, and of course, painted them wrong and stuff like that. I need to get some water. I'll be right back. What got me into loving World War II naval history so much? My dad. He had all kinds of books on battleships and stuff like that. And before I ever got into it, I would look through them, and they're cool. I mean, who the hell doesn't like battleships? I mean, battleships are freaking cool. And one of the books that I have here on my bookshelf, I'm not going to pull it out, but it's on my one of my feeds. You'll see that I do a review. I literally go through the whole book. Check it out. It's an excellent book, and I think it's still available. And it's just inspirational and just how the things looked. And then when I found out that people were gaming it, I'm like, so you're saying I can play a game on something that I've just been, learning about? I mean, that's like a way to participate in history is gaming. And the first stuff I ever war gamed was naval. And You know, the only bad thing about naval is there's a couple things that are bad about naval. There's generally no terrain. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to go and take these woods. I mean, yes, there's stuff you can do if you're doing stuff around Savo Island and things like that. But for the most part, you know, there's no terrain, so to speak. And then the other thing is sometimes the technology really kind of actually causes a late naval engagement to not happen. You know, if you're a war gamer, you want the ships to launch shells at each other. You don't want to like avoid battle. And you know, radar and aircraft do those kind of things. You know, aircraft carriers might be the coolest thing ever and might be a good idea, but as if you want to see guys lobbing shells at each other, they kind of prevent that from happening. So they're kind of like a Debbie Downer when it comes to that. So I'm not an aircraft carrier fan because I'm more of a, how much armor does this ship have kind of a thing, So um, you'd think I'd like earlier stuff better, but man, World War II is just like perfect for, how different all the ships look from each other. And pre-dreadnoughts, just about the ships almost all look very similar to each other. And then they also had similar paint schemes too. And when I was in junior high, I picked up liking World War II, and that's when I first started reading these books on, the German surface raiders and the Battle of the Atlantic, and that kind of all tied into to itself, You've been on the bridge of World War II battleship. It was an experience to say the least. I bet it's the New Jersey. Was I right? Do you see the video yet where Mitch and I went on the North Carolina? That was a hoot. That was a lot of fun, but us going onto a World War II ship would be like when I went. Him going on a World War II ship is kind of like when I went to Gettysburg. Not really my thing. Yep. The New Jersey, which is damn near in Pennsylvania, right across the water. Probably try to get it away from that Jersey pollution. Isn't that what New Jersey is known for? Well, one thing I've been pretty happy with these tanks is the finished product. They look the pit stain of PA in New York. Yeah, the only bad thing I have to say about that thing is I didn't go with the intention of filming from the get go. So there's some stuff that I went over with him that wasn't on film that I wish I had. I wish I had the foresight of doing that, but oh well, you get what you pay for, So I have a gimbal, one of those hand things. The problem is it's for an earlier phone that I had. It's not really compatible with the phone I have now. The phone I have now is too heavy for it, so it doesn't work really well. So I was apprehensive of trying to film without it. And after doing that, I mean, I'm just literally just holding the phone up, and it works pretty freaking well. I don't think that's going to discourage me moving forward, but it was kind of a rocky start. Had I known that I was going to film from the get-go, there would have been some other cool stuff I could have got on that video, but oh well. It happens, you know. Speaking of pit stain, that's where we're going after Christmas. We're going to the New York Northeast for a week. My daughter wants to go, and shit, I haven't been since 2003. I actually think the city's pretty cool. I just don't want anybody living there. Can you just all leave your city and then we'll do a tour without all you people there? Okay. I mean, I dig the buildings and everything. I don't want to live there or anything, but it's pretty cool. My condolences, yeah. Well, the museum stuff's neat, you know. But I've gone during the holiday season, and it's not bad. It's not bad because there's enough people that aren't from there walking around. Maybe I'll get to yell at somebody. Hoffman Samatobin, welcome. Welcome back. How's it going? I'm doing great, other than this a lingering cough that for no good reason that I've had for a week. My wife has had it for a month. So it's just it's funny because recently I was just telling her, about 3 years ago I had a cough that lasted about 3 months. I don't know that it was this harsh, but it's annoying. You know, not really keeping me from doing anything though. Doug, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a little bit of time since I've been on here. Real life's kind of intervened. Honestly, the biggest change more than anything else is the time change. The time change has been brutal to me. I'll get home from work in the dark, and it's like not even 6, and I'm just burned out. I'm just burned out where I don't want to do anything. So today I'm not going to bed early. I'm buying a Starbucks, and I'm probably going to make it so that I can't go to sleep tonight. But I don't have to work for a couple days, so you got a small kaiju game you're working on right now. I'm surprised there haven't been any really good video games based on stuff like that. I mean, I remember when we had the original, I want to say it was the original Xbox, long time ago, there was a Godzilla game. And it was kind of a missed opportunity because there's some cool things about it. But that's the problem with video games is they always fall short of your expectations. But you could play a couple different monsters. I forget what the hell it was called. I didn't have it. It was back in the day when you could rent things from Blockbuster. You could rent video games and stuff from Blockbuster. You could actually rent consoles from Blockbuster. Because I remember renting the Xbox, the original Xbox, and the PlayStation 2. It's like, I'm going to get one of these two. Let me rent them both and see which one I like. It's a hell of a lot better than buying one you don't like. Yeah, I don't know why the time change has just been really, really brutal this time. And if I lived farther north, it'd probably be worse. That and, it started to get cold and it got warm again, and it just a whole lot of like chaos. And I'm not a chaos fan. You rented the original NES console at Blockbuster back in the day. Yep, they had those too. I never been a Nintendo fan. Um, Too many of their games are what I would call pacifist games, and I'm a pacifist every day. So I want to torture and be a warmonger. When I'm not in my fantasy world. My violent fantasy. I had a friend of mine that had a Sega Genesis. We played that a lot way back in the day. We actually had we even had a hockey league where people would take a team and you'd play through the games. And of course, somebody would find some. You go and you play somebody, and you couldn't play it on over the internet. You had to physically go somewhere and turn in your scores and shit like that. And people found a way to break it. They'd be turning in hockey scores that were like 52 to 37 and shit like that. Always them damn cheaters take the fun out of it. The old Sega Genesis. I don't do much console gaming anymore, although I did release just yesterday the release date for Diablo 4 next June, so we'll be getting that. That's something that we do as a family. Slay demons. All right. Got that done. What else on here is black? Okay, these little thingies here. My buddies and I played golf on the original PlayStation for money back in the day. I had a friend of mine that liked playing on a computer. I forget which golf game it was. He loved playing it. I've yet to find anything about golf that I found endearing, but hey, lots of people enjoy it. What we used to do is, way back in the day, we'd wake up, we'd watch Formula One. There was this Formula One game that we played on a computer. And what was unique about it is you would go and you could do your time trials and stuff like that, set up your cars and stuff. And then, alternate your lap times and stuff like that. You can only play one person at once. We're playing on the same computer. But when you got to the race, one person would start and then would race for like 3 minutes. And then eventually it would fade to the other person, and then the other person would take control. And it was kind of unique that you could play multiple people on the same console. And of course, the computer was driving your car when you weren't there. But we did that for a couple years. So we'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, which I guess at that point seemed pretty early. Not anymore. And we'd go and watch the Formula One race, whether it was Hockenheim or whatever the hell it was. And then we would race that race. So that was kind of fun way to quote unquote participate. I don't mind watching sports as long as I've got like some say in it, but just sit there and just, watch things happen. I got better things to do, But there, you kind of have like a tie-in, you know. And I forget which Formula One game it was. It was for the 486, so tells you how long ago that was. Okay, same thing on this one. My generation has been playing video games since they come out. But I don't really have a huge nostalgia reason to play old games that have been played many, many times ago. Like they opened up one of those arcades or whatever. You can pay a set fee or whatever and play unlimited for who knows how long. And probably would have enjoyed that as a kid. But now to go back to those retro graphics and what do I want to play Gauntlet for? You know. I got Diablo. Why would I play Gauntlet? I remember the arcade in the mall. It was when Gauntlet first came out. They had some adult. Well, I don't know. He might have been in 32 at the time or whatever, but he seemed like an adult back when I was like 15 or 16 years old, and he was always there playing Gauntlet. And I think he always played the elf. Anyways, he was there the whole time. He was a really good player. And you showed up, you had to play by his rules. You know, but he wasn't being a dick. He was just, you pay attention to him, you'll survive. Hey, it's a quarter of gameplay, and you're a kid with no job, You want to play a while, you listen to this guy. And he was always there. I remember some nerdy dude in an Indiana Jones type fedora hat. I don't know how old he was. I'm sure he was in his 30s or 40s. Kicking it like it's 1985. All right, I think we need to do our tracks. And I think we've got away with not having to mix our own track color. We just use the SS Camo Black on there. Sounds like someone I would see at DBA night. Nerd Burglar, third class. That was old back then. If it was 1985, I'd be in diapers. Yep. I remember a lot of stuff from 1985. I remember a lot of stuff from like 83 on. Before that, it's, you remember one thing and you forget 12, kind of stuff. I thought Rick was Nerd Burglar, third class. I don't think Rick was hatched yet in 1985. Nerd Burglar hadn't been invented yet. lot of people have never heard of Nerd Burglar, but when you hear it, you know what it is. Oh, weekend's here though, so all is well. It's a long week. Doing all this detail painting, and then when it's going to come down to dry brushing the dirt, you won't even be able to tell that this was even painted, but it's not that much trouble. It's the thought that counts. It's supposed to be cool again early next week. Maybe a high of like 60 something. Yeah, that's cool for here. I'm not saying I couldn't handle it being colder. I'm just saying that's what we get here. I'm just happy to have cool nights. Not nights where it's... Why did you forget to do the return rollers on that? Damn me to hell. Damn you. Damn you to hell. $33 right now. That's a good temperature to be. What is it here? 64. That's cool for here at nights. That's sad. 71 keeps changing here, kind of annoying. Oh, you live in a hot box, huh? I don't mind being hot in the daytime. I just can't stand being hot at night. I mean, the sun's not even out. Those nights where it's hot, no breeze, and buggy. Buggy galore. No, thank you. And as you get older, I think you're supposed to be cold all the time. I guess that means I'm not anywhere close to being older. Because I'm never cold. So after this, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with the decals. I think I'll use the ones that come through here. I specifically pulled off 2 of them. I'm boring myself, I see. Not that one. Oh, is it this one? Oh, this just has the 412. The 503 is little. I may use some of the newer decals then. I may use some of the newer decals. Yeah, what is it? What is it that causes the yawning? Dude, I'm drinking coffee that if you pour it on a graveyard, like the dead would come out like Thriller, and I still yawn. I'm like with caffeine, like the Irish are with alcohol. It just doesn't even affect me. Well, I am really enjoying painting these vehicles I have the last couple months and just not being rushed. Oh, I did make some forward progress on playing this game. A couple things came in this week. Um, I ordered a bunch of these little wooden discs. To use instead of poker chips, because usually what I do is I've got the character's name on the poker chip and I throw them in a bag and mix them up. And a lot of poker chips make a lot of noise, so these will be a little quieter. That's actually one I wanted to get from one of our vendors at the shows, is they make the MDF ones, but they didn't show up. So I'm like, well, I can't wait forever for them to get here. And then I got a couple of terrain mats that came in. I'm not going to show you what they are now, because I don't think I'll do them justice. And I'm kind of iffy on them. I'll shoot a video tomorrow in the daylight so you guys can take a look at them in their glory. But it's a couple of them in 4x6, and there's things I like about them and there's things that I don't like about them. I think at the end of the day, I made the right purchase considering how much they cost or how much I got a deal out of them on there. But ultimately, it was. I ended up thinking I was getting A, ended up getting B. So I ended up getting a different material than I thought they were, but they look pretty nice. I'm just afraid of them being a little glossy in photos, so we'll see. I'm going to do a video of that this weekend, and you guys can check out what they are. They came in 2 days ago. I just hadn't had a chance to. 6mm. Now you're taking a break. Eye strain is bad. I don't know that I've ever painted something that I'd say eye strain's bad for me. I know that hunchoverness can be bad. Bad posture. You gotta take a break for that. I think painting miniatures is easy on the eyes because you're not focusing in and out, in and out, in and out. If you were focused that way, then yeah, I could see that being an issue. And I've been playing some of that Gates of Hell Ostfront. What a challenging freaking game. What a challenging. I feel like I got a pretty good grip on it. And it is a beautiful game. But the computer is challenging. I guess it's a good thing. Well, you got to get the uniform details good enough to make you happy. Some people you're just never going to make happy, but do stuff that makes you happy and forget everybody else. What's the equivalent of a uniform Nazi? You got what, a rivet counter for naval stuff, right? You got a tread head for if you're, the armor freaks. What it's a uniform, a button Nazi or you have this solo game called Stilicho. Stilicho. Okay, I think we got that color all on it. No, we did play some Ancients last week, but it wasn't DBA. So we did some play testing stuff, and it went really, really well. So everybody had a good time. Like I said, I have no intentions of ever playing DBA again. That said, I have every intention to play stuff that's similar to it. Just working on our own stuff, so that may be a long time coming, but it's really nice working on something and saying, this doesn't make sense. Let's not do it this way. Instead of, well, that's just how the rules are written. We all agree it's crazy, but that's just how the rules are written. So it's kind of liberating. What are you play testing? Well, what I'm working on. The rules with no name. It'll be a DBA sized game, but more granular. So, and I mean, it could be 10 years coming. I don't really have a time period, but it's something that will be free. It's not to sell or anything, so it's not going to be like, well, we got to get the rules out even if they suck. No, it's not going to be like that. So. I told you everything I know. I don't really know anything. It doesn't even have a name yet. Doesn't even have an official name. But it'll all use DBA 3.0 armies. You still got to buy a 3.0 rule book. And that's it. Working on some different concepts that make the game less abstract. I'm not interested in abstract games. Abstract games are difficult to explain to people. I'm not a fan of abstract painting or abstract math, so, But it's going to be a work in progress and definitely going to take multiple years and have no intention of running it at a show. I'm kind of done with that. Now, there will be videos, obviously, once, things go out. But, I mean, that's every bit of 5 years off, probably. So it's not really what my focus is right now. So we don't really need to build any armies, per se, to play test it. So I need to learn how to play this game again. I'm hoping that there's some stuff I'm not happy with that I'll have to change. And I feel completely at liberty to do so because these rules are no longer out of in print that I use for this. How about morale? Morale's figured in there somehow. Units can take hits, but it's still the same scale of game. It still feels the same. If you're familiar with DBA, it wouldn't feel any different to you, you know. But there's some things that irk me that have always irked me that need to be fixed. Conforming and shit like that, abstract crap, and it went pretty well. It went pretty well. Even more ways to use your pips. Even more management. That is really the core of the game, is what you do with the pips. But it's slow going because, we're like, okay, what can we do to make the game better? Let's try this. So you try that, and it could be something very, very small. And, you go, okay, did that make the game better or worse? It made it better. Okay, let's keep that. All right, let's change one other thing. So it's not like you're changing terrain setup and the values of the units and how far they can shoot and maybe how they contact all at once. That's how you get nothing done and confuse everyone. It's like, all right, what is the first thing we need to change to make the game better? Oh, well, let's do this tiny little step. Okay, did that make the game better or did it make it worse? Made it better. Okay, cool. So in other words, the whole intention is don't try to take too big of a bite that you'll have to dial it back. So in other words, take small nibbles and never have to dial it back. 2.5 movement ranges too. We're going to bring that up. We're not there yet. We're not tinkering with any of the units, but I could totally see Solid Auxilia moving 2.5. But not necessarily geared towards tournament games, because there could be a specific type that, like Alexander's Hypaspis, they could be like nobody else. They may be a unit that nobody else behaves like them, because they have some unique things that. They were supposed to be the linchpin between the infantry and the cavalry, and they were able to keep up with the cavalry. Well, you can't keep up with the cavalry if you move too. So, anyhow, we're not tinkering with the units just yet. That's actually the easy thing to figure out. But yeah, and we brought some other people into it that are experienced DBA players, and they have input in it. It's not like, okay, well, it's this is how it's going to be, and if you don't like it, stick it. We're going to test it together, and there's just got to the point where it was like, okay, there's just some things that nobody's going to agree on. I can't rewrite the rules in a language that can be understood by most people. There's always going to be everybody's playing the game a little bit different, even if they don't have an agenda, even if we all legitimately want to play the game correctly. The way it's written, the way the sentence structure is, it's painful. It's just not right for those of us that are trying to push the game forward to be constantly tortured by the same damn questions that get asked over and over and over again. It just got old. It just got really, really old. That along with the fact that, nobody showed up to play at Historicon, and so why don't I just do my own thing? It's not like I'm going to sell it. It's not for sale. That's not my motivating thing. It's just to make something better, And, we won't have any army lists, so you'll have to either make up your own I would suggest use 3.0. That way you've got to give the old man who gets credit for most of it anyways, your dime, because I'm not motivated by. I do things I don't like for cash. I don't need to do my hobby for cash. So we'll see if something comes back. But I don't want to make a video on why I'm not playing the old rule sets anymore because it sends the wrong message. I don't have anything bad to say about 3.0. It's just we've had some great time playing. I've been playing the game for 18 years. I'm just tired of being tortured, like Groundhog Day, over the same stuff over and over again, and they can't be solved. I mean, I solve things for a living, so the idea of having this thing that can never be solved, that an issue keeps coming up, is just extremely frustrating. So, anyhow, I'm not going to run games at shows anymore. Other people want to do them. That's cool. They can do them. Okay, I think we got that done. We need to do the lighter color, which is chocolate brown. It's clickbaity too. Oh, negative videos? Yeah, I'm not interested in that. I don't even necessarily have a problem with people that have made competing rule sets. I just think that, it sends the wrong message when you start trying to sell them. You don't take somebody else's stuff and put a price tag on it. It just sends the wrong message. It's not like you can do that once and, you don't have to work again. I might consider it if I wouldn't have to work again. But maybe. DBA was fun years ago when I first got into wargaming, but it had to do with the guys I played with. Everything has to do with the people that you play with. Everything has to do with who you want to play with. I have no intention if, like, say this rule set's done, to bring it to a show and put it on. I don't care. There's just some people I just don't want to play games with, and they do it to themselves. I don't want random people playing with my stuff that I've spent a long time working on and destroying it. So it's your hobby. Nobody gets to tell you how you get to spend the time. Your hobby should be to decompress, not to get even more angst from it. I'm just tired of compromises. I'm tired of the questions. Well, how come these skirmishers can't shoot at a distance? I don't know. That's a good question. Why can't they? Well, they will be able to. It might be a really short distance, but at least it'll be something where people could wrap their head around it, not like trying to make abstract reasonings for it. I said the distance could be very, very short, but it's not like, well, they have to touch to have any effect. Because that's difficult for new players to kind of understand. I've been a new player, and, you'd rather go with Field of Glory. I would rather go with something that I have total control over. So that if the terrain setup is not flawed, but if it's explained improperly, we can fix it, You bought those Field of Glory digital games. I did too. They're pretty decent. I am I'm done with stuff not making sense. You know, I enjoy thinking about stuff, but I don't enjoy my head hurting. And if I can't figure it out, it's not explained correctly. But it's got nothing to do with the author. I think the world of Phil. I really do. And the problem is he's not the one on the front lines trying to get other people to play his game, being tortured by them not understanding it. So we are. And it just gets to be a point that, I'm not making any progress with this. There's two other rule sets that I'm not going to mention what they are. Basically lifted his work. And neither one of them give him credit. I just think that that's wrong. Maybe they don't want to give him credit because they don't want to get sued. Maybe they don't want to get sued because they're charging for the work. So I plan on giving him credit and not charging. So I will take the opposite tack whenever we get to it. What's so wrong about being humble? You got to give people credit where credit's due. That's what makes the world of opf gaming better. I'm not sure what that is. Someone creates something and someone comes along and builds upon it and makes it better. Absolutely. Just don't pretend, hey, I created it all on my own. All right. How do you people sleep at night? Now, when I go to play this Field of Battle, I haven't played with vehicles yet. I've read the rules. I've played with infantry some. If I see something that doesn't work, I'm going to change it. Hell, the rules are out of print. But I plan on running this game like a role-playing game. Everybody's on one side. Not a role-playing game that, check for traps bullshit. I just mean that don't worry about what the rules are. What do you want to do? It's a narrative building game. Oh, here we are. Here we are. Unsolicited garbage. Oh, crap. Really? I hope this asshole gets cancer. No, they brought it upon themselves. So spam a lot. And I gotta figure out how to do it, how to change it here. I believe I can come here. I think I gotta go in here. Gotta make sure the volume is all the way down. Close. Not only is it spam, it's dirty spam. Wait, hot girls, I'll send you a message. I'll tell you where they're at without spamming the channel. They're everywhere. If you don't already know where they're at. It's probably ladyboys. People that cause trouble in this world. All right, let's paint the MG34 right next to it. Bring out the Banhammer. And this is the machine gun that broke. Damn it. Okay, so we got to somehow drill that bitch out. and put a new one in. Yeah, I'm not doing that right now. I'm not in the mindset for it. We can fix that later. All right, let's see if I can find the instructions for this thing readily. I don't think that they went far. All right, what do I got left? I got a 412 left. Where'd that 503 go? The 503 went on the hull, and the 412 went on the turret. All right. Is there a spot on here? There is there. It's going to end up going over as part of the vision slot. Well, we could try it. What else the hell are we going to use it for? I could use a couple of small ones. Let's see in the new set that I got. Soviets. That's the US one. That's the Soviet one. Where's the German one? It's only the frickin' thickest one. Should be right here, and it is not. You know, as anal retentive as I am for some things, I know some people aren't as. They must spend a long time looking for shit. Not here. Is that are they? No, this is all U.S. stuff, which we'll get back to them. Soviets, those guys are waiting in the wings. We'll be on them in no time. Did it fall back here? I'm not going to go on a crusade looking for them right now. Let's close this up. There's the moon. Man, the moon was kicking today. Like, wake you up in the middle of the night kind of bright. Where did they go? Where did they go? No. No. Not back here, are they? No. What are they doing here? This is not where they should be. Okay, these numbers. Oh, these are really small. Now the nice thing about these small numbers is they should fit nicely on that turret. Okay. I think I'm going to save that 412 for a Panzer III or something like that. These got Czech 38s written all over it, especially these larger decals. Czech 38s had these really nice red and white decals. I think these small numbers are going to be the way to go. Now, I will use the crosses that come with these. I will use that. So we'll save that 503. And we'll save the 412, but we're going to use these crosses. All right, cool. Now, one of them has it there, and where's the one on the opposite side go? Behind that. All right, let's get our little, let's get this stuff right here. And I'm going to actually leave it down here at the floor. This stuff actually smells pretty good. All right. We're going to have here behind the vision slot and right here at the corner. Okay, and then the other one has, is there three of another one? There is. The other one will be one there, and then in the middle of the hole, and the other middle in the hole. I don't know how the hell I'm going to slide that behind it. Especially since that's glued down. Where is it on this one? It's about right here. I'm going to have to leave this one off. Or just put it over here. I'll put that little shiny spot. If you end up not using it, it's not a big deal. Okay, and then the turrets. I'm going to paint the top and the bottom because I may end up putting something there in between those and underneath. And then this one will just be in the middle of this. Okay? And then the other turret. Doesn't look like it's got any of them on there. I'll put it in the same spot just for good measure. Okay, we'll let this dry overnight. I know you quit the old DBA, but did you and Mitch ever fight those Han versus Shang new battles? No. No. No, but they will be used with the new system. We're going to do some scenarios, so the scenarios will be, the new rules will be more for pushing the scenarios than anything else. So some of the first stuff we'll do will involve that. Let's put this up here. I gotta go to the little boy's room. I'll be right back in just a second. Yeah, we'll get to doing those battles at some point. Like I said earlier, this is going to be one of these cases of either what we come up with is going to suck, or we're going to be thinking we should have done this 10 years earlier. But we're doing it now before I'm totally senile and it can't be done. So, got to look at the positive part of it. Okay, so Panzer IIs are drying. So we can put those decals on in the morning. So what do? We either quit for the night, we start working on what's coming after the Panzer IIs. I say we start working on what comes after the Panzer IIs. And that is some of these kits that I got in the mail the other day. And I'm thinking, I'm going to build this one. The Schwer Panzerfunkwagen. Why is it backwards? Or maybe you guys don't see it backwards. You're going to think you should have done it 10 years earlier. I hope I don't think that, man, I shouldn't have stopped playing World War II 20 years ago. That's why I need to get back into it before it can't be done. But okay. Rodent kit. Let's get rid of this stuff out of the way here. From Ukraine. I understand. Here is the missing piece. All right. We need to put that there and not lose it. Let's see how finicky this thing ends up being. That's the conscious decision I made. If this guy was nice enough to send me these kits because he knew he wasn't going to go around to them, it makes sense to get around to them first. Well, you know, the thing about doing it now as opposed to 10 years ago is 10 years ago I'd be like, nah, I don't want to hurt the community. There's no community left. You know, I showed up to Historicon 2 years and I spent basically a year and a half promoting DBA to play at Historicon, and nobody, for whatever reason, decided not to show up. So I'm holding myself back for an audience that isn't there. You know? What's the purpose of that high rack? It's an antenna. It is an antenna, a roasting rack, actually. They probably used it for all kinds of other stuff, but it is an antenna, it's a radio aerial, so to speak. But that's really what pushed me over the edge, is going to Historicon and nobody showing up. And this last show showed up, and I'm like, I didn't want to do the awards. I was just tired of doing the freaking awards. You know, there was 2 weeks left to go, and I wanted to work on stuff that I wanted to work on. And I don't want to ever build anything for a show ever again. I will start something, and I don't want to start something else until I've finished it. And other people get to do that. Why don't I? So, okay. I know what I'm looking for. It's my bag of tricks. No, I'm holding myself back, keeping things from being created for no interest, you know. So it's fine. I mean, there's interest. It's just, you know, we live in a big country where people are spread all over the place, you know. Okay. Number 1. I've never, ever, ever glued black pieces together. Ever. Now, we are going to need something right off the bat. I might as well find it now. And that is the tweezers. Except I think they're over there. The finer ones are over there. What DBA about Huracan? It's all right, except somebody stole an award. Can't figure out who it was. You know, like for instance, I've got somebody that's showing up from California, and I want to play their game. But if they don't list their game, I can't necessarily play in it. It's just, it's just a pain in the ass. Like you're being held hostage by all this stuff. And I want to have a little bit more freedom. I can go to Huracan and have a lot of fun and not even play in any games. Wow, I think when it comes to trim this thing down, we're going to trim this thing down while it's still on here. Let's put this somewhere like there that it's not going to blow away from me. All right. Okay, 14A, two 14As. Oh, and I have to do this times 4. Well, that makes sense. Okay, they're right here. Okay. Well, that's interesting to know. I may actually not do it that way then. If it's under that much strain. Okay, let's not do it that way before we break one of these and have to replace it with something. Let's do something I never do, and let's just go ahead and break it and just cut it off right here. Let's go ahead and take that pressure right off of it. Okay, and then we'll lose the other side too. I get excited about using these nips, but sometimes doing it the way we've always done it before that is probably better. All right, we got those out of there. Let's go ahead and spread the bent ones around. We'll use one bent, one not, and it'll bend back. I just need to. All right, we got 2 of those pieces, and then we have a 15A. Okay, which is one of these right here. Let's not even use the nips for this. Okay, and 10A. Okay. And then 2 16As, which are these right here. Yeah. Well, there's another thing that happened There's another thing that happened also. There was somebody disappeared. It was kind of a big mover and shaker like 15 years ago. They disappeared. And then they reappeared a couple years ago. Oh, we want to do this big competition. And we want to do it all nationals. We want to do all this stuff. We want to promote it. And I'm like, look, I've been promoting it. I've been nothing but promoting this game. Going to multiple conventions throughout the year, running a full slate of games basically in every session. So people that want to play DBA, like us, because I'm not willing to run games and not play in them. I don't think there's a conflict of interest. First of all, you're not winning anything of value, and second of all, you can't expect somebody to just be tortured, for no reason whatsoever. But Mitch and I alternate if there's odd numbers of players or whatever. I want to play the army that I've been working on. So this guy came in and, we need to contact the authorities and make sure that it's a sanctioned event. And I'm like, what authorities are there? I mean, I've been the one doing all this shaking or whatever. And the icing on the cake is like, well, I've been trying to do this, and I have a YouTube channel where we have 300 games. He's like, oh, you have a YouTube channel? So he wanted to like be the main guy, but he doesn't know that there's hundreds of games for DBA out there that we've put on. And he doesn't communicate with Facebook. And I'm like, you know what? Just have fun with it. I'm done. It just, I, I don't, I don't want to restart over again. You know. Yeah. Speaking of authorities, so we have this little Facebook group. I actually like Facebook a lot. It's great for communicating with people that have a common interest. Not to go out there and talk about politics. I don't give a shit what people's politics are. None of us are going to agree with each other. So, but anyhow, so we have this little Facebook group for our neighborhood, for our community here, which I guess there's 70 houses, something like that in this community. So we've got one. Hey, we're missing a lost dog, or did you lose this package, or Amazon dropped this off. It's kind of useful. So you get people that are like, they're asking for even more government interference. And I'm like anti-government interference. Like, if they canceled all laws tomorrow, I'm not going to behave any differently, right? Are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? I'm like, I guess there's people out there that are wanting more interference from the authorities. Like, they don't even know how to balance a checkbook. So there is no authorities for North American society of medieval wargaming anymore. It just doesn't exist. It's a volunteer thing, and do what you want to do, and if people want to play it, they'll show up and play it. But one of the first things I was doing when I was running tournaments, because I'm not a tournament player. The only reason I did tournaments is so you could play with your own stuff. And it kind of limits people screwing with your things and then breaking them, right? Because you're the one doing all the moving of them. But they would give out prizes, which I don't necessarily care about because I want to paint what I want to paint. But, So one of the things they started is that the people before me were charging admission to play in a tournament. Well, the problem with that is it discourages new players because the new players aren't going to win. So they're basically having to give in money to fund prizes that then you will go to a vendor and collect gift certificates for. I'm like, that's just too political for me. I'm like, I'll do the little awards and they'll be free and, end of story. Anything that's even smells remotely of political, I'm not interested in doing. It's just not my style. Okay, so these little notches, they go forward like that. Okay, so it's gonna sit like so. These little notches, these sit inside, okay. Cool. This one fits in here. But there's people out there, I mean, it surprises, well, nothing surprises me anymore, that want to be controlled. And I'm anti being controlled. I'm like, what makes me think that I want somebody telling me what to do? We all have enough of that. I'm not a fan. Okay, I think we can get away with putting this here. We don't need the wheels to turn. That's an unnecessary absurdity. I used to think, this is a pain in the ass to build this, but it's kind of enjoyable. As long as you got all the right tools to make it enjoyable, then it's enjoyable. It's just so unnecessary to have all these little parts that could potentially move and stuff like that. All right, and then we're going to yeah, this is pretty finicky for somebody that doesn't have the patience for this kind of thing. And I am a hell of a lot better with patience now than I was 20 years ago. I never built any tanks, but I used to build the Gundam models. It's relaxing. It is. It is. You know what? And it's really nice to put together things with this weld cement. Because I really don't like super glue. It's brittle, you know. Roger B, welcome. There's the first of 4. I've got to build that. I got to do that 4 times. Okay. Let's do it another time. We already got these 2 little axles. Straighten them out. Okay. Get the 2 little discs. Now, let's use the same one so we can consume these first. Minimize the chaos. This is going to look like a Matchbox kit when we're done because there's a couple different colors in here. That's typical of Matchbox. And I did pick up, coincidentally, some of this stuff. I don't think I'm going to need it on these. But I did pick up some plastic putty. I've heard some good things about this Vallejo stuff. As opposed to, I wanted to get some liquid green stuff, but we haven't even messed with that yet. So somebody's saying, yeah, make sure you get that. There's no wastage. The applicator on it is really good. Okay, we'll do that. I went to a couple stores looking for liquid green stuff from Citadel. I was all excited to use it. Everybody's out of it. And I read a review of getting it on Amazon, and they basically said don't because the material that they got was really old. So, use that. Excellent. Okay. Is it like a traditional putty? You know, like the white stuff? You know, the Squadron stuff is the stuff that we used to use way back in the day. Which I think was green, right? I don't remember anymore. Man, it's been a long time. But you know, I'm not going to clean this stuff up super well because it's going to be undercarriage. We're not going to see it. There's no point. I'm not entering this in an IPMS thing. This is going to be weathered anyways. Obviously, if it was something that was visible, we'd worry a little bit more about it. Doesn't mean we're going to do a shit job, but you know, like there's a little nick here. Well, this is the inside of the tire all the way in the back. You're not going to see that. Liquid dew stuff doesn't work well for me. Okay. Isn't that great? A lot smoother than Squadron products. Excellent. Well, I'm a big fan of Vallejo stuff. Apparently, AK stuff is really good too. I'm kind of new to AK. I've only got one of their paint sets. And I did paint a vehicle pretty successfully with it. I think their paints are really watery. But I like everything Vallejo. Sometimes you get a paint that's kind of old sitting around. But this ground texture, this is better than the Liquitex stuff. Of course, the only reason I switched to this is because this is available and Liquitex is not. It's their own doing. When I use green stuff, I have to do number of layers. Ooh, looks like I got the right thing. Well, it was recommended to me by a modeler that does good work. Again, through Facebook. Facebook is wonderful for our hobbies. We all have this little niche that's, not easy to find people in your area that do the same thing. We need the whole world to be able to find folks that have the same common interest. But the advantage of not running games at the show, you don't have to play a game with people that are a pain in the ass to deal with. And I have not really had much of an experience with that. But it is out there. The possibility of it happening at any point is out there. So, just I'm not going to deal with it no more. Actually, I would say I've had probably a pretty good experience in tournament games. I think I've only played with maybe 4 people out of, I want to say like 150. That I don't want to play a game with them again. And that's just because of the person, not necessarily the tournament setting. So that's pretty good odds as far as I'm concerned. Okay, 2 down. Okay, that's all these things off of this one, so we'll move that one over there. AK paints I don't care for, but their other products are outstanding. If the line is really, really small, I bet liquid green stuff is great, and it's also good for texturing. You try everything. Then what happens is someone at flea market gets a great deal on what I don't like. Yeah. Yeah, I generally don't jump ship from a product unless it's like not available anymore. That's what happened with the texture I was using for the groundwork. Is the Liquitex stuff just was no longer. What was the wording that they used? It wasn't not eco-friendly. It was not a sustainable material. Yes, I'm running the earth into the ground by using texture. Well, whatever. Vallejo got my business, so. And I actually think it's a better product. But I didn't jump ship looking for something better. I just kind of worked out that way. The stuff wasn't available anymore. For those, and then we have, I always want to cut the side that is the least, that looks the flimsiest. And that would be this side. Shit. This one snapped. Oh well. Shit happens. We have lots of options. Some of these, I'm not sure how old this kit. Some of this plastic does get pretty brittle. I found the Ukrainian plastic to be pretty brittle in the UM kit. I think that's going to be totally fixable. Let's go ahead and trim these things out while we're thinking about it. Worst case scenario, we'll replace it with a little metal rod. It's in a place where it won't even be able to be seen. Again, this is probably something that would drive me crazy if I was 10 years old and somebody gave me this kit when I started doing 1/72nd scale stuff. It would have absolutely driven me up the wall. I have to build all this stuff, but just the fact that this is not white metal and I'm gluing it together, piece of cake. Yep. Stay over there. See you in the morning. Yeah, when I used to do models in the early 90s, it was a lot more frustrating than now, but I got pin vises. I didn't have pin vises back then. You know, I got much better light than I do now. I've got a dedicated area. I've got years of patience. I got you guys keeping me company. You know, it's not like I'm bored. Conditions are different. That secret that I found on some forum, and I think it was pretty sure it was on a Facebook forum. That if you're looking for like taking the seam lines off of stuff, just use the back of the X-Acto knife. And I'm like, you know how many sharp back of X-Acto knives I've thrown away? All of them. Brilliant. Yeah, you learn stuff from sharing information with each other. You prevent another dark age from setting upon us. Dark age of modeling. I actually found a legitimate hobby store to go to within the last couple of months. And the thing that struck me is, well, other than they didn't have anything 1/72nd scale armor, which is fine. I don't need anything. I just kind of went there just out of curiosity. They were just all over the place. You had 1/35th scale stuff, and there was an old Lindbergh kit that was in some messed up scale, like 1/50th scale or something like that. They had like a German World War II, the big prime mover half track that moved like the 88 millimeter gun. What'd that be? SDKFZ 7, I think. Just the one that had this rows of seats or whatever. It didn't go with anything else that they had there. It's just some random kit from, I felt you. Just some random kit from Lindbergh. And some box scale, you know. The box is this big. Let's make it as big as we can to fit in the box. Painting Airfix models in the basement with enamel, listening to albums. Bring back the 70s. I am fortunate that I have no enamel paint experiences, because not only is the enamel paint a problem, but man, the brushes that we had back then were just garbage. You know, those nylon brushes they'd almost be tapered, they'd be flat. You can't do anything with that. You know, you have one in San Antonio called Dibbles. They have all kinds of stuff, but nothing I'm ever really looking forward to for. Yeah. Well, they got a place in the Northeast. We're going there in Christmas break that I think I'm going to stop by and see that they seem to have quite a few things, but they got like dragon kits, and they're like $25 for one dragon kit, and I'm like, that's too much when you can go and buy Pegasus, right? I mean, a couple T-26s from Pegasus for $17 or $16 or something like that. The paintbrushes are the biggest difference now. There's so much more options and better paintbrushes, and they can still be cheap-ass paintbrushes, but they're not like those nylon disasters that we had. Remember Pactra? Remember Pactra paints here in the States? Those were just utter garbage. Just god-awful. You know, there was those little tins, and when you bought them, they were already old, and the paint would stick in the... Because the inside of the... Not the tins, but the inside of them was I think they were plastic, because the testers were glass, and the paint would stick in the corners of them, and you couldn't get all the paint out, and you know, you're a kid, so of course everything's more frustrating, you know, because you're a kid. Did this thing glue together successfully? I believe it did. Well, I say let's kick some ass with it. I remember when I was a kid, people would, in the late 70s, they'd give you those model. I remember getting a van. I want to say it was an MPC van, and it was a Luke Skywalker van. Had a big white van, panel van, almost like the A-Team. His big Luke Skywalker type of ad on the side of it. You didn't have any paints to glue with that stuff. You never painted anything when you were a kid. First thing I ever painted was an MPC kit of the Bismarck. And I had no paints to my name except some paint by number, you know. Some paint by number oil paints. So I decided to paint it with paint by number oils because there was a color I kind of looked like deck tan. I used that. It took like 3 weeks to dry. And, of course, you know, it was molded in gray, so, you know, being an 11-year-old kid, I wasn't going to paint the hull. It's already gray. What's the point, right? But that was something else. Had it in my closet drying for like 3 weeks. Oh, it's still sticky. How long does it take oil painted on plastic to dry? A long ass time. A long ass time. I'm surprised it ever dried. You said in the basement. I've never even lived in a house that has a basement. What's the deal with the basement other than it smells like a library all the time? You get any strange creatures that appear in the basement, like rats and stuff like that? These delicate parts are definitely a lot easier once you're mounting this on a base. Makes it more robust. And it increases your chances of being able to move the thing by the base and not by the actual wheels or whatever that you could inadvertently, you know, damage just moving it around. You remember using oil paints and deciding to leave it closer to the oil furnace to dry. Mistake. Uh-oh. You learn things as a kid, sometimes the hard way. Okay, we've done 4 of these things. What's next? Oh, we add the tires, okay? I bet there's going to be a spare one. So we're going to need a total of 8 tires. 2, 3, 4. No, these are all the same. The spare ones must be somewhere else. Certainly we can use this for this. I get excited about using these little snips because when I built models in the early 90s, I didn't have this stuff. I didn't have these little tools. I was Poe. And you cut corners where you can, and that's one of the corners that you cut. Okay. I don't want to chase you all over the room. Okay, you decided to go back and finish the 350 hood with a photo etch, even if I messed it up further. Thanks for our discussions on ships earlier. You're welcome. Ships are cool. And hood's a cool ship. And you know, I had my first experience using photo etch ever when I put on those parts on the UM kit of the Panzer IIIJ. And I rather liked the photo etch. The only thing I didn't like about photo etch is I didn't like that I had to use super glue to glue it down. I'm not a fan of super glue. But cutting it out seemed to be really precise. I thought it worked really well. Glad I could help, man. That's what we're here for. Help each other out. Italian household. Mamma mia. Kitchen in the basement. Kitchen in the basement. Bunch of extra furniture. Good for when friends came over just for hobbies. No rats, but there were a few smells. Italian household. Let the olive oil flow. Yeah, it's something I have every day. Olive oil. I never eat pasta. I don't need any more of that. I'm already pasta shaped. I'll come in with some sandpaper, take care of some of that stuff, but let's get these big nibs off that. A disparaging term. You stupid nib. Anybody seen the that show that's out there of the, I don't remember what it's called, Rogue Squadron or Rogue something like that? The SAS guys. Is that any good? Any of you guys watch that yet? It's on some channel I don't get, and I'm not going to pay for it. So it looks interesting, but the only thing I don't think I'd like about it is I recognize too many of the actors, and I'm a big fan of using folks that you can't you can't put another character on them. Rogue something. It's not. I know it's not Rogue Squadron. Rogues Ahoy. Rogue Fest. I remember when we were doing model plane kits. It's like, yeah, you heat up the X-Acto knife and then you melt the bottom of the tire so it looks like it's a little fatter on the bottom and it's carrying weight. I'm like, holy cow, man. I remember I had bought a Panther kit. I was modifying it because I wanted to do one of the tanks at Kursk. And I don't think it was Verlinden, but somebody made a set that came with a different turret. Yeah, there was enough differences on it. They gave me a different turret. And they also gave me the road wheels, because the road wheels had less nuts on them. I think they had 16 instead of 32 nuts, and some other stuff. And then I go and look the other day and I say, oh, like Tamiya now makes a Panther D for Kursk. Sons of bitches. All I had to do was wait 30 years. When I heard Rogue Squadron, I thought Star Wars. Yeah. It's called Rogue something. It's got a bunch of people that have recognized it. Like, oh, it's got that one guy who was from Game of Thrones, and he was also the Russian mobster that ended up getting axed in John Wick, whatever his name is. And then the guy that was the Roman general and centurion. Like, I prefer things where it's people you don't recognize, you know? And they're a lot cheaper too. If you hire people you don't recognize, they're a lot cheaper. Most things that aren't very good are not very good because of the writing, not because of the acting. Now, a couple things are actually bad because of both. But I came across a World War II movie that was bad because of both things. And it was terrible. The story writing was terrible, and the actors were just like uber wooden. But generally, it's the writing that's bad. See, I would rather just finish working on one thing before I start something else, but gotta stay moving, man. Can't just sit around and... This isn't 15 millimeter miniatures where I can just keep working on something else. Some of this stuff requires time to dry. You have the first X-Wing book from the expanded universe called Rogue Squadron. I mean, I like Star Wars, but I don't know about reading Star Wars books. That's just... I'd rather read about real things. Played a cool Star Wars game a couple weeks ago. Don't remember what it's called. Outer Rim, I think is what it's called. Pretty cool. Not cool enough to buy it. Okay. Outer Rim's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. I ended up winning, but that's not why I had a lot of fun. I think just going through the process of what you were doing, the missions, was a lot of fun. It's free on Tabletop Sim. I have the tabletop thing, and man, I can't think of anything that makes my computer just feel like it's going in overdrive more than anything else. I don't know what it is about that program, but I can hear like the fan in my computer, and like there's like no moving parts or anything. There's nothing for it to figure out, and you'll hear like it'll be like hot, and I'm like, what the hell? I got it because I was gonna play that DBA on tabletop thing. Played it one time, and that's it. So I pissed away $20 or whatever it ended up costing. Haven't really found much of a use for it other than that. Oh, these are nice and dry now, so let's go ahead and drop these guys in. I'm getting really close to the point where the glue, I'm not going to be able to reach it. And I thought I was just going to dump this stuff out, but I think I'll buy another bottle of it and just refill it, because this applicator is stellar. Just absolutely stellar. I like it. I like pretty much anything Tamiya. I am a fanboy of them, or used to be. I like Japanese shit anyway, so. Nice. And nice precision wheels and stuff for this. Total War 3 Kingdoms make my computer sound like it's about to take off. I've played it very little. I had it. The cool thing is if you have a history of playing those games, which I do, my first introduction to it was I had a friend of mine whose I had a friend of mine whose roommate had a Nintendo. Oh, what the hell happened here? It never glued. You son of a bitch. Had a Nintendo. And he had Romance of the Three Kingdoms, whatever it was, for the Nintendo. You know, the original Nintendo. Whatever the first generation Nintendo was. And I played that some. And I'm like, I don't know who this Sao guy is, or Cao, whatever the hell he is. I couldn't figure out what it was. And then when I ended up getting my Xbox, I played Dynasty Warriors 2 or 3. I think it was 3. And then 4, and then 5. And, you know, I know them. So I'm like, I recognize people's names. You know, I know who they are. So I am a big fan of Romance of the Three Kingdoms stuff. Don't really like Woo. Not a fan of Woo. And haven't messed around enough of Three Kingdoms Total War to go in there and... Because you can control your little characters and go in there and kind of do a role-playing thing and actually get them to do things. Haven't tinkered around with it much. First character I played... not gluing down well. Well, it's probably too much of a gap. First character I played all the way through in those games was Zaho Yun. The ponytail shoe guy. There's a bunch of historical board games on there and communities for some more popular ones, like that Hannibal versus Rome game with the cards. Is that a fun game? Does Hannibal have a chance? I want to try that Gates of Hell Ostfront multiplayer. I really like that game. It is really challenging. But that's okay. That game's got a lot of detail that I feel like I appreciate it. Card system's really cool. To me, kits are good, but the problem is they're too good. Nothing much for a model builder to do, if that makes any sense. Oh, I don't know. I kind of like not having any problems. I always love their instructions. They have cute little cartoons amongst them, you know. Oh. Ah. One game that I thought that was really good on there, well, not on there, but online, that's a board game, is the one I can never remember. One of the many who I can't remember what the name of it is exactly. It's called. It's the Squad Leader ripoff, the ESL ripoff. It's actually a really good looking game. But I got so frustrated with like 3 different people that I knew in real life trying to get them to play it, and it just wouldn't work properly. And it's a simple game. Like, it shouldn't have connectivity issues, but it did. Um, what was that game? It's on my computer. I'll look it up. It's going to drive me crazy. It is. Lock and Load. Lock and Load Tactical. I thought it was a really good looking game. I have no problem with a board game as long as it looks good. As long as, you know, yeah, get you excited about reading about history. You know, I got no problem with board games, especially if it's a port, because now you learn how to play the real game. You know, one game I never got into it because I ended up buying it on iPad was Heroes of Normandy. And Heroes of Normandy is a beautiful looking game, but man, it just plays like, I'm not going to say it plays like crap. It does not appeal to, I am the wrong person it's not trying to appeal to me, you know. Hold on 1 second, I'll be right back. Have I played the Undaunted? I have not. I have not. They look good. Performances. 180 horsepower. That's lame. It was cool when I was playing that one session of Gates of Hell, Ostfront, and they loaded the crew on this. They loaded up through these little doors here in the side. I would have thought that they would have come through the top hatch, but I guess it makes sense to go in through there. That was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. I appreciate stuff like that. Okay, so we've got the wheels. We got the wheels drying. Okay, section 3. Yeah, the one they have a Stalingrad one now. I think that just came out. Like the Normandy one just didn't appeal to me. The desert ones, desert things are cool. Always. Man, you're building a lot of little assemblies here that you wouldn't do with other stuff. All right, I got to make sure that this stuff is dry before I mess with that. So I'm going to skip this section here because I need to make sure that these wheels are plenty dry before I start constructing them together and we have other weird stuff on there. Man, there's a lot of things on here. Okay, let's get the fenders. Okay, so this is fender 22F, which is this one here. Let's chop that in half. This one. Don't try to cut it flush. Leave a little bit, then we can always tinker with that. Alright, now let's see what we're dealing with here. Not that any of this would be even visible, but I actually have a video that is saved on my YouTube. I'll save things and forget to watch them. This came up on my recommendations of a guy that does a tour of the Airfix factory and how the molded kits are made. And that sounds like it'd be pretty interesting to see because I really don't have any idea. But I have this suspicion that a lot of these miniature manufacturers are going to plastic, not necessarily because the cost gets passed on to the consumer, but the longevity of the molds. I suspect injection molded kit molds last a hell of a lot more than molds that you pour white metal inside of. I gotta believe that is a huge reason why that's even happening. I'm gonna go ahead and take the other fender off. That was so much fun. I'm gonna take the other fender off. Box did a video on their molds. Really got you interested. You've seen firsthand at Old Glory how they mold their miniatures. You tight with Russ? Right? I believe that's the owner. It used to be the owner. Man, I wish I would have got to meet my hero. But I was just a snotling back then anyways. If you don't know who my hero is, then you probably don't even know. I think I read somewhere that because the word is that he was killed in a car accident, but I don't think it was a car accident. I feel like I read somewhere that he was working on a car and it rolled onto him. And I can just picture some guy working on some MG, and the MG just rolls over on him. I wouldn't have made that up. But that sucked because I loved his work. Well, I cherish every one of his miniatures that I have that I painted. I think I have several videos on Mold Sade. I wouldn't say tight, but I've met him a few times and been to their main location here in Pennsylvania. A friend and I spent a few hours just chatting with him in his office. He showed us around. Is your hero Pat? No. What's his face? The sculptor for Old Glory. Dave Alsop. Man, I like that guy's stuff. Dave Alsop. That's actually, he's the one, his sculpting of the 20mm figures for combat miniatures was the ones that got me into gaming in this scale. Had I not seen him, not sure you have a hero. That's okay. It's all right not to have heroes. No, I just like the sculpting. He might have been a child molester in real life. I hope not, but lots of flawed characters on this earth. Okay. This one. Okay. I don't know why I feel like I need to glue this to the hull before I start gluing stuff on it, because if I glue it too close, because this hull tapers like this, the hull tapers kind of at an angle like this, and this ties in like this, I don't want to put something too close or it won't fit on there. So I'm going to use my own better judgment and say I'm going to make sure that we attach that to the hull before we do that, because I could totally see that happening. Unless I specifically move it out towards the edge. Which I need to see another drawing of this to make sure that isn't the case. One of these has these things finished on here. And I can see some of them here. Because that's the problem with these Ukrainian kits, is they have all these pieces labeled where they go, but there's no location marks on them. Haha. There's no location marks on them. Well, it's almost 11 o'clock at night. I probably should call it a night because I still want to get up at 5 in the morning. So, all right, well, that said, we've got these Panzer IIs. I'll be ready to put the decals in the morning. And then weather them, and then they'll be done. Put them on these two stands. So, anyways, thanks, folks, for stopping by. Almost 3 hours. That was a success for sure. And we'll catch you guys maybe tomorrow morning. If not, later on in the weekend. You guys have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated.